Welcome to Women's Million Dollar Conversations with Alice Tang, where we share stories from successful businesswomen who have saved, earned, or sold over $1 million and discuss how they built their success and insights to help you achieve your goals. Now, let's join the conversation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alice Tang, your host of Women's Million Dollar Conversation. Today, I have the pleasure to talk with one of my wonderful friends from 15 years ago. We met through a common friend, and one of them already been interviewed is Alice Tang. We're here to talk about money and the first million. Laura Stepp, welcome.
Thanks, Alice. Glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Now, Laura Stepp is my superhero. Every time I look at her, she's helping a high-tech company to be more successful in the human resource world. And if she's going to tell you, she might, and she may not. The companies that she have helped make successful to the purchase or to IPO, here she is, powerful woman in town. So welcome, Laura. Would you say a few words about yourself?
Sure, Alice. Yeah, you did a good job describing it. So the title I've often carried is Chief People Officer. Sometimes it's Chief People and Culture Officer or CHRO or even CHRO and Administrative Officer. But it's really about taking care of the people in the organization, as well as being a part of an executive team trying to run effective organizational operations. So those are the things I tend to touch for the most part in my work. I've been in the world of org development and HR my whole career. So we're coming in around 30 years now, and I've always loved it. So it's been great to be able to do what I love.
So Laura, this is a Women's Million Dollar Conversation. We interview guests who have saved, made, or sold $1 million. It looks like we're talking about saving today. The first question for you is, what's the value of money for you?
I thought that was an interesting question to consider. I think people think of money as security. In a way, for me, it's about, having enough and making sure my kids are doing okay out in the world is kind of the basic. And then after that, it's really about being able to go on adventures, explore the world in different ways. So I think money is a little bit about adventure for me and sometimes less stress, right? To not have to worry about paying the bill is really nice. And I don't live extravagant lifestyle, but I do love to get out and have a good time. So it's nice to be able to do it.
I totally know how having a good time is for her because I'm a follower of her social media. Laura really balanced between, really putting away and having a good time with family because it's all about the moment, right?
Yes, the moment, exactly. It's about the moments.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's focus on your first million for a second here. We want to know how long does it take you to get there? About number of years or months?
I dug around to think about when I crossed that threshold, and I couldn't quite remember, but as I looked at records, I think I was probably around 40 at the time. I think about my money in buckets, right? So I was saving for my kids' college. I was putting money into a house, of course, and then also saving for retirement. And those three big things were going on in parallel. So at some point I crossed that threshold. I think I was about 40 at the time. And then, you sort of set the next goal to get to, right, for savings. So it's just about a kind of constantly making sure you're being smart about your money, not getting yourself into too much debt, and making sure you're putting as much away as you can and having smart people around you to give you good advice.
Very good. So if there is any challenges in getting there in that journey to the million, would you share?
Yeah, I don't know. I think when you're younger and you do have kids, you have lots of things you've got to do, right? So you have to invest in the moment and think you can't put all your money into retirement savings. So now that I'm an empty nester, of course, I can save more. But back then I wanted to make sure I had a roof over our heads and food on the table and all those things. So you do have just day-to-day stuff that you have to spend money on. So I guess I would say it was I had to first get out of debt that I carried from your younger years when you're a student. Then you're investing in your family life. Then you start to sort of accelerate how you're saving for the future. At least that's how the pattern has been for me.
So it looks like there is a very methodical process that you tackle it. How long does it take for you to pay off student loan, for example, or to fund a home and then for save for children, college and such? Looks
Yes.
like, it's just take one bite at a time.
It's one bite at a time, but always having some intention to set yourself up for more security in the future. That was always, of course, a goal I had in my head. I actually thought about it. I learned about money. I talked to people who happen to be good at it because it's not something that think I'm particularly fabulous at, but I did think about it. I was curious about it. I read about it and always had the idea of making sure I was secure in my future on my mind. So maybe that's just an intention that you have, not some perfect plan, but a consistent intention.
When you say set the intent, that really gave me a lot of goosebumps
Hmm.
because a lot of people did not look there. They look today.
Yeah.
And today is, of course, is chaos.
Hmm.
Whose family is not chaos when you're raising children and paying
Yeah,
off mortgage and all these bills come at the end of the month, and then you have an employer because you're a super employee, but still there are changes that happen.
that's right.
Yeah.
And I
So
think if you have the intention, for example, even if you love that beautiful, expensive car, you don't buy that car because you have other things that are more important. I think that sort of helps you make decisions along the way.
yes, so intent and priorities, I heard.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Awesome. Now, when people look at you and said, oh, well, Laura's life is pretty good, continue to rise, there might be a time or two that you feel that, gee, saving is too hard. I want to keep quit. Or what kept you going?
Oh, I have to say, I've been lucky in that I always loved my work. If you don't love your work and you're struggling to figure out what your vocation is, for example, that's a barrier because you don't go to work as motivated every day. You might not be succeeding, right? Or thriving at work, which lets you progress at work. And those things are things that give financial benefits. So I've always felt a little bit lucky in that I knew generally what I love to do, and I was able to find work environments where I had awesome people to work with and learn from, and my career was able to grow. And I certainly have a whole array of friends, and people have all sorts of different variations on this theme. If you have to stop and recalibrate and go back, like career switch, for example, it's going to just take you a little longer. You can still get there though, and you're better off heading down a path which is the one that gives you happiness in terms of career happiness, because that then leads to more financial success. So
Beautiful.
I think that I've been lucky in that regard, but I've also seen people do amazing things when they've switched gears, and I admire those people.
Well, you said luck a few times, but
Yeah.
I also learned being a
Fortune.
foreigner here, fortune when I was in grade school. Fortune favors a prepared mind.
Uh, I like that.
This is not my interview, but I like to say that if I can say I'm lucky, just like you do. You
Yeah.
said you're lucky, we're being humbled. But
Yeah.
really, if somebody says she's lucky, I work my tail off. What luck?
No, that's true. I think that goes with absolutely goes with hard work. You're right. You're right about
Yeah,
that.
you're a hard worker.
Maybe I feel fortunate. You have
Mhm.
blessings in your life and you just feel grateful for them.
Yeah, we're just humbled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, when you make decision, what do you have a process of making a big decision, or you just say, I go with my gut? Because we have two extreme, right? People who just jump, or people who process forever and never make a decision because it's so methodical.
Yeah. I think I like to gather data. I like to sort of gather information, which then helps me feel informed before I make a decision. I do also, though, take into account a little bit of your intuitive sense of the right thing to do. But like even with finances, for example, personal finance, I've always just like when I'm in the airport traveling somewhere, I almost always grab one of those Kiplinger's, one of those little magazines, which is
Yes.
all about the retirees who have done the whatever thing. And I always learn something. Every once in a while, I read financial periodicals. So I've always had a little bit of a side interest in gathering information, for example, about how to do smarter things with my money, as well as gather information from people. In my circle of friends, I have people who have been involved in financial advisory work, or they're smart math people. And you get good advice from folks. So one of the really great pieces of advice I got back when I was trying to get rid of debt and move into savings mode, I worked at Intel, which by the way was an amazingly generous company with their employees, good wages, good benefits, good perks. So again, there's fortune in that, but also an amazing place to build a career. And they had a stock purchase plan where you could buy stock at a slight discount and then sell it if you wanted to. And this friend of mine said, oh, you could take that and just basically buy, sell. And every time you get a sell, you pay off debt. And I was like, that's a great idea. And that was very important move that I made over the course of 5 years. I got rid of all the debt. It was a good idea from somebody else that helped me make a good decision.
Very good. I recall that when I first came to this country, I was still a housewife, not working. I heard from somebody that funding a 401k will help. Well, my husband was the breadwinner, would help him. So I go back to my CPA. It was introduced to us, of course, we don't know anybody here, and said, why didn't you tell us that? You're fired. Because it's so simple, right?
It is so simple. I'm giving my kids that advice. So all of my kids have a Roth IRAs set up, right? So that even if they're making just a little bit of money, they're saving something into that. It's nice if someone's telling you that. It's helpful.
I say that you're role modeling to your next generation and to many, to our audience.
Yeah.
So this is a good place to ask this question. When an audience look up at you and say, I can associate myself, relate myself to Laura. I wonder what is the one piece of advice that she would give me so that I can have that hope. I too can get to that million. What would you tell her?
I think maybe it goes back to the beginning of the conversation, which is set your intention for it. Know that it's not going to be immediate unless you're in a profession where you're doing big deals, or maybe you're an entrepreneur and you hit it big. These things can happen. I've been in the corporate world, working hard, making money and saving some, which I think is more the model for most people. Slow and steady wins the race in that regard, as long as you're making smart decisions along the way. Get good advice, make smart decisions. Don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, and don't worry about that too much. Just in a way, pay attention, but don't pay too much attention because you'll get there. You will get there eventually, most likely.
Yeah, set it and forget it. There is one term in my world, set it and forget it. And saving in any type of accounts is the same thing. I don't care which type of account that people feel that is appropriate for them. So, a couple last questions here. What is one piece of very bad advice or one piece of very good advice that you have received that has made the biggest impact to you?
My mom was always so great at putting perspective on things. And she told me two things early in my life. They're probably relevant to this conversation. Very early, even when I might have been in middle school or something, at some point, she made very much the impression that you should always have your own bank account, right? Whether you fall in love and get married and, they're the love of your life, doesn't matter. You should always have your own money. You should always have your own bank account because that's for you. That's your independence, your autonomy. She was adamant about that. I think that's how she ran her life. And I couldn't imagine not having my own bank account. It's just not an option. So great advice, I think. The other great advice she gave me and has given me multiple times when I need to be reminded was to always create options for yourself. Don't be in a situation where you only have one choice, because then you're going to feel either pressured, you might make the wrong decision, etc. So always make optionality, create optionality for yourself. Can I go left, right, center, whichever direction? And that's been really great advice. I've given that advice to other people too.
Very good. Very good. Have your own bank account under your own name known only, and then always have options in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, with that intent, I'm sure that you talk about, we can create more options. My mom always said to my dad, after 60-some years of marriage, your money is my money, my money is my money, our money is my money. Are you with me? So my mom and your mom, despite of the different culture, they could have been friends.
Yes, independence mattered a lot. Absolutely.
I know. Laura, we are very grateful for you today. What are you grateful for?
Oh, the fortune of my life for sure. My friends and family, right? That's all it's about. Money's just there to make sure you get more time with the people that matter.
I love that. I love that. We'll quote that.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Laura, for spending some time in your busy life with us.
Thank you.
Really
I have
appreciate
a cool thing to think about. So yeah, I might have to go talk about this at dinner.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Alice.